Moving on, Elvis has entered the building. NASA is here. Unfortunately, Kathy Luters could not join us today. There was apparently some sort of announcement in Florida. I'm not sure what it was about. Maybe Phil will tell us more about that. So stepping in for Kathy is Phil McAlister. Phil is the Special Assistant for Program Analysis Office at PA&E, Program Analysis and Evaluation at NASA. He spent 20 years in the industry. Prior to working for NASA, he was Director of Futron's Telecommunication Analysis Division. He's been a senior manager and had a 10-year career at TRW and Answer Corporation before that. I'd also note that Phil did yeoman's work on the Augustine Commission, which I had the pleasure of interacting with him. Norm Augustine, phenomenal individual, and again, Phil did yeoman's work there. And of course, he has been overseeing the Commercial Crew Program, shepherding it through some challenging times and bringing us to where we are today. Everyone, let's have a warm welcome for Phil McAlister.
Thanks, Mike. I'm sorry if I messed up the schedule. I thought I was on at 11:30. Sorry, George. I appreciate you being flexible. Yes, I'm filling in for Kathy today. I'm actually going to show her slides, which we made before the announcement yesterday. And of course, all the questions that we couldn't answer yesterday, I still can't answer today. I'm sorry. So now I think I've ensured that no one's going to listen to what I say, right? Yeah. I can take questions. I might be able to answer them, might not. But I do have some important messages that I think are still relevant, even in light of the announcement yesterday, which kind of trumped some of our messages. But this is what we wanted to communicate. And I promise these are actually Kathy's slides, and you'll see what I mean in a couple minutes. So let's go to the next one. Oh, I do it? Oh, okay, sorry. Great, all right. So we really embarked on commercial human space transportation at NASA in 2010, where we really established the philosophy of how we were going to operate the program. We wanted to partner with industry to develop a transportation system or systems for low Earth orbit to help not only NASA, but to also help foster the commercial space transportation, human space transportation to low Earth orbit industry. And so since that time, we've been pretty busy. This was our vision. Commercial human spaceflight to LEO, we want that to be robust, vibrant, with many providers and a range of public and private users. We felt like that would strengthen the ISS, be good for NASA, be good for the nation, and for our economy. So we've always had these dual purposes. It has led to my schizophrenia. My therapist thanks my job because I go and I'm like, am I NASA purpose or public purpose? We're both. And we reconciled that several years ago. We were really trying to accomplish both. For NASA's purposes, we want to be able to transport our people and our NASA astronauts and NASA personnel up and down to the International Space Station. That's our need. But we also want to support this development of the non-NASA market for commercial human space transportation. Mike mentioned my work in the Augustine Committee, and in that report you will see a fairly compelling argument that was made for commercial space transportation. And so we embarked on this program in February 2010 is when it was announced in the President's budget request. And at that time, we spent a couple months after that sort of fleshing out the program, and I gave a briefing the first time that we actually laid out our plans at an exploration workshop. This was in Galveston, Texas, in I think May of 2010. Was anybody in the audience? Was anybody at that conference? There we go. There's one. All right. Frank, a couple others. Great. I was pretty nervous at that meeting. It was really the first time that we had talked about human space transportation done in this partnership way. We had been engaged with the cargo program that was started under Mike that had been very successful up to that point. But if you remember, in spring of 2010, we did not have any successful cargo flights up until that period. So it was a pretty strong commitment on the part of the agency to move out in this direction. And this is the framework that I laid out back in that time. We wanted to accommodate a diverse set of people, not just NASA astronauts, but anybody that wanted to go into low Earth orbit. We wanted to enable that. We wanted to support multiple commercial systems. This is actually word for word from my slides, and this is what I mean. I'm not, didn't do this just to reinforce my own messages. Kathy, I guess she was sucking up or something, but she used my charts, and I think that's important. Incorporate requirements and a concept of operations as high level as possible. We wanted to provide the maximum trade space for the providers and our partners to innovate and come up with their own solutions. So if you dictate every last requirement and every detailed nuance of the system, there's not a lot of trade space there. So we wanted to try and, as much as possible, expand that trade space so that the partners could be innovative. What else we have? Rely on spaceflight certification, which we are doing. This last contract, the transportation contract, CCTCAP as we call it, is primarily about certification, but we also added some services missions. We're not going to be talking about, or we're not going to actually certify other missions. When you get down to the requirements, it's very much tied to what you're doing. So the requirements that we have are for our mission, which is to go up and down to the International Space Station, and that has some unique requirements. So we're not certifying these systems for others, and that's why we've entered into this partnership with the FAA, which has been very successful so far. We're not done. We've got a lot more work to do. But we're not a regulatory agency. We don't intend to be a regulatory agency, so we do our part. We need a service, and in order to provide that service, we need to certify those systems for our personnel. And then culminate with FAA licensing. We spent a lot of time on that verb, actually, because we weren't quite sure when FAA licensing would kick in, but since that time, we fleshed that out for the very first services mission to the ISS that will be FAA licensed for public safety. So our approach, again, this was from my slides over 4 years ago, competition through pre-negotiated milestone-based agreements. We still have that with the TCAP contract, which we announced yesterday. Require an end-to-end transportation solution, but encourage the development of a range of launch vehicles and spacecraft combinations. Definitely want industry skin in the game. We wanted to promptly and clearly state our safety requirements, and actually our first safety requirements document was published later that year in 2010. And we wanted a competitive selection at the end of the development for the services phase, for one or more through firm fixed price contracts. So I'm very pleased to be able to stand up here over 4 years later and say we've delivered on these promises, I think. We have stayed true to that original vision. We've changed our tactical acquisition strategy a little bit and modified a little bit about our approach, but for the most part, we have stayed true to these principles, which I'm very, very proud about. So how have we done? We've had this sort of stepwise approach, incremental steps, no more baby steps. We are going all the way with TCAP. We've had partnerships with 8 commercial companies. I don't know if you can see all those in the chart. There's a lot of colors, whether we had a funded agreement or an unfunded agreement, but we have accommodated a very diverse set of concepts. We have high-level performance requirements as well as more detailed safety requirements. We had to provide a certain level of detail about our safety requirements to ensure that these systems are safe enough for NASA astronauts. So if you look, you can see the public purpose stays with us all the way through this journey, throughout the circle of life. We call this the circle of life chart. So we're always going to be mindful of that and help facilitate that. But now the NASA purpose is becoming a little bit more dominant because we are really talking tactically about how to get our crews up and down to the space station as soon as possible in a safe manner and in a cost-effective manner. So you can see we've had a number of incremental steps, some contracts. CPC was actually a FAR-based contract, some Space Act agreements, and I think through this combination we've gotten to an unbelievably great place in the nation where we have, counting SpaceX and Boeing that we announced yesterday, as well as Orion, 3 human space transportation development, orbital space transportation development programs concurrently. I don't think that's almost like an embarrassment of riches in the United States. And if you count Dream Chaser, which is still under development, that would be 4. That's just an amazing situation given where we were just a few years ago when we retired the shuttle. So we really feel good about how we have done and where we've been. So yesterday actually, we announced the TCAP contract. Commercial Crew Transportation Capabilities, that's what it stands for. It's a certification capability for up to 4 NASA crew to the International Space Station and back down. We also have a requirement for 100 kilograms of powered cargo up and down. This is a firm fixed price milestone-based framework. for the certification and the execution of the initial missions. If they successfully get through certification, they will get 2 missions. And then after that, up to 6. And it's up to NASA to decide how many of those to exercise. And most importantly is this, that we are continuing, in my opinion, in a partnership arrangement. Yes, we have a contract. That does not supersede or trump the fact that we are in a public-private partnership, and we intend to operate that way. Industry is taking significant risk and providing resources. NASA is providing significant resources as well. And together, I think we have an alignment of goals which enables this partnership to be successful. So going forward, my main message is we're just buying, at this point, NASA is just buying a service. We are not dictating how this market and how this industry is going to evolve. That's going to be up to all of us in this room and all of us in the aerospace industry. Everybody, I believe, has a stake in this game for commercial human space transportation for the United States. I hope everyone is not going to just defer to NASA and say, well, whatever NASA wants to do. No, this is going to be something that we all together create. And hopefully 5 or 6 years from now, we're going to achieve that vision that I showed in the very first slide. Multiple users, multiple providers doing a diverse set of things. We are helping to provide the transportation infrastructure, but we need more people, more companies doing more things in low Earth orbit. We're going to have a very big anchor tendency because we've got the International Space Station. We're going to be doing lots of experiments and groundbreaking research, and these contracts really help that because we're going to be able to put up a 4th U.S. astronaut almost completely dedicated to research. So we're really happy about that. But again, we're just buying a service. We need the FAA, the Air Force, these other agencies to collaborate with us to make sure that this is a seamless regulatory environment for our partners. And we need industry. In a big way, we all need to be doing more things in LEO. We definitely do not want to take a step back after we've established these transportation architectures. And the only way to do that is for more of us to be doing more things. We want to hear from industry about what their needs are to enable this commercial transportation industry to grow, because we want to be mindful of those. And then that's in our interest as well. We're not purely doing this altruistically. More users, more customers for commercial space transportation helps NASA and makes our service more reliable, more robust, and hopefully more cost-effective. So that's my main message today. So with TCAP, we announced 2 awardees. Before I go into that, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Sierra Nevada. Do we have any Sierra Nevada people here? Great. I want to take a moment to really acknowledge the hard work, dedication, and the passion for human spaceflight that Sierra Nevada has exhibited with us over the years. We hope to continue that partnership. They were not selected for TCAP, but we really want to. It's been a pleasure working with the company. The company's been a great partner, and we're going to continue that partnership certainly through the end of their current agreement, and we'll see after that. But really was excellent, almost unbelievable work, the amount of maturity that we've been able to exhibit with the Dream Chaser, and it's only through the hard work of the Sierra Nevada company and the employees that have enabled that Dream Chaser to get as far along as it has, which has been just wonderful to watch and be a part of. So I want to make that acknowledgement. So going forward, SpaceX $2.6 billion, Boeing $4.2. That's the maximum contract value for all the certification work, all 6 post-certification missions. We had to come up with an acronym, sorry, PCM. That's the mission that's going to take our astronauts up and down to the ISS, and then a small amount of special services in case we need to do some additional work that might not have been covered within the scope of the contract. So the ordering period is 5 years, and we are committed to the goal of 2017. Of course, we're not going to sacrifice safety. It's going to be a difficult road. I don't want to talk about the challenges because there's going to be plenty. I'm trying to take at least one day. It hasn't even been 24 hours. I'm going to take at least one day to sort of enjoy the moment. Like I said, no more baby steps. I feel like we've kind of graduated high school, and now we've got this sort of 4 years of college that we've got to go through, 3 or 4 years of college, and then on to the real world of services. But getting to where we are today with 3 human space transportation systems at about a CDR level of maturity, the ICAP agreements were only about $1 billion, and we've made remarkable progress. We're looking forward going forward, but we've still got plenty of challenges, both financial and technical, to get through the next 3 or 4 years. But again, hopefully working together as an industry, we can make that happen. I really feel like we have an alignment of goals, which is going to make this a little bit easier as we go forward. Thank you very much. I should have talked longer so there would be less time for questions, right?
Too late.
There's got to be another slide somewhere. No.
It's all over. Okay. Who has questions for Phil that he cannot answer? Start with Janet.
Go ahead.
Hi, Phil.
Hey.
So we're saying that we're still doing public-private partnerships. It's a FAR Part 15 contract arrangement. Is that compatible? Can we do that?
Yeah, I believe so. When I look at the definition of a public-private partnership, it generally involves a contract. I'm sure those in industry have lots of partnerships. Usually there's either a memorandum of understanding or a contract that dictates both parties' roles. So I don't see that as incompatible at all. I really feel like this meets the test of public-private partnership when industry and the government are each taking risks and each providing resources, financial, labor resources for the accomplishment of a united goal. I just read that definition in the Council of Public-Private Partnerships. I also Wikipedia'd it, and it was the same, so that was really nice. And so, yes, we feel like this is still a partnership, but it is the contractual terms are under the FAR Part 15 contract.
Okay, thanks.
And for what it's worth, Janet, we've done the BEAM program under the FAR, and that involves significant cost sharing, fixed price, milestone based. So I think there have already been some good examples of real public-private commercial operations under the FAR.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Other questions from the COMSTAC? Samantha.
Thanks. So Phil, what's your perception of the public and industry response to yesterday's announcement?
The response?
Yeah.
I just got a summary from our PAO person, and so I'll just quote her. Overwhelmingly positive. That wasn't my words, that was hers. Of course, she's in public affairs, so maybe she's got a conflict of interest there. So we heard a lot of good feedback. I think we are reestablishing U.S. access to space, human space transportation access. I don't think anybody disagrees with that goal. I think that's a good thing. We're all really energized. Sometimes we can take the joy, we can just suck the joy out of these because there's so many rules and we have to be conscious of what we can say. But stepping back, this is a historic moment to reestablish human space transportation. We're not there yet, but we have the agreements in place to get there. So I'm really happy and really excited about where we are.
Deborah.
Over the years, we've talked a lot about getting more use of flexible contracting mechanisms. We talked this morning with Pam Melroy about other transaction authority, FAR Part 12 services, data buys, et cetera. So where do you think NASA is in terms of adopting this more commercial model for areas beyond space transportation?
Again, not even 24 hours old, and we're always looking to the next step. That's a logical question, actually, Deborah. I'm just teasing you. And I've gotten that question.
You knew I would ask that one.
Yes, right. And that's a great question. And I think there are opportunities looking forward to potentially apply this kind of partnership model going forward. And we'll just have to wait and see on that. I would say that NASA has used a variety of approaches for the various missions that we have, and it's usually mission focused. So we spend a lot of time on our acquisition strategy, how we're going to do this, and then after we have had a full and robust vetting process inside the agency that we go forward. NASA needs the flexibility to perform a variety of missions under a variety of different constructs. This is just one. It's proven to be extremely successful under cargo. We hope it will also be successful under crew. And I think there might be some applications, but we're not even actually doing crew exactly like cargo. We've made some adjustments as needed. And so I'm just a big fan of flexibility. I just really hope that NASA will always have the flexibility to tailor our approach for the appropriate mission. For this mission, for commercial crew, there had to be a number of important ingredients before we would have embarked on this. Number one, we needed strong industry who are financially and technically capable of doing this mission. We needed the potential for non-NASA customers. certainly. Otherwise, I don't think we would be doing this. We can't be pushing the state-of-the-art technologically. If you're pushing the state-of-the-art technology, very difficult to do a firm fixed-price development contract. And you need a constrained federal environment, which I think we're going to be in probably for the foreseeable future. If we had a lot more money, maybe we would look at something different. But sort of you put all those ingredients into the primordial soup and you come out with commercial crew. So you have to look at the circumstances, the mission that we're trying to perform, and then I think that will dictate the approach. Rather than take the approach and then trying to find an application for it, we start with the mission and then figure out how the best to achieve it. And I hope NASA will always have the flexibility to tailor the approach for the mission appropriately.
And for what it's worth, Deborah, to hail back to Michael Gazarek, STMD is using a variety of Space Act agreements, of broad agency announcements to move forward with their programs. And last COMSTAC, we had Jason Krisan from Advanced Exploration Systems. He, too, is leveraging a series of unfunded SAAs as well as some very innovative FAR procurements. So, you know, as Deborah points out, I just hope we continue to be innovative and leverage whatever the best vehicle is for the program. Michael Lopez
Alegria. Hey, Phil. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it is a good moment to celebrate, and I think everybody in the room is very pleased that you chose 2 competitors instead of 1. Really great for the industry, for the country, for everybody. So technical question. In CCDEV2 and CCICAP at least, the milestones and sort of a straw man schedule, I don't know if it's a matter of public record, but it was out there in the public.
Right.
The various companies would show that. Will the same be true under this and CCTCAP? In other words, will we be able to see what the milestones are and when they're scheduled to occur?
Right. So we haven't really determined everything that we're going to be releasing publicly. So I'm just going to say I'm not sure about to what extent we are going to be releasing additional information. There will be additional information about the selection. We do plan to release this selection statement, so you'll be able to see a little bit more about our insight into the selection. The details of the contract, a lot of that is proprietary, so I just can't say. We did get credible schedules. We are all 3, Boeing, SpaceX, NASA, committed to the goal of 2017. There are required milestones, what Mike's getting at. There were 5 specific milestones that had to be included in the contract, and they do have dates associated with them. And then there was this additional set of company-proposed milestones that everybody included as well. So I'm just not sure, Mike. I think so, but I can say additional details will be coming. I'm just not sure to the extent what those details will be.
So if I can chime in with a few questions that I'm sure you can't answer. So
No, those are easy
in
then.
advance. Yeah.
Just say no.
We had the announcement of the $6.8 billion figure yesterday. Do you know what congressional funding levels that presupposes?
We hope to be able to get the President's budget request for next year. And then the out years, obviously out year budgets are always subject to congressional appropriations. And we're going to be working with our congressional oversight committees on making sure that that budget is accurate, transparent for them, and understandable so that we can execute these contracts.
And along those lines, do we have any idea, just taking the Senate number of 805 for commercial crew in FY15, do we know what the breakdown will be between Boeing and SpaceX for that money?
Probably somebody in my resources office knows that, but it'll be dependent on the milestones. Again, there were company-provided milestones, so they don't look exactly the same, the contracts, although they are for the same eventual service. Tactically, how they get there, test programs, obviously a little bit uniquely different. So, so I can't say at this point exactly what the split is for next year. For TCAP, yeah, ICAP we've got the obligations necessary to finish the ICAP agreements.
Other questions from the COMSTAC?
Aren't we out of time?
Phil. First of all, congratulations to you and NASA,
Thanks,
especially
Steve.
to you, because I know you have fought these many years, and from 2010 to now, having survived it is a great accomplishment. So congratulations on graduating from high school. So I know you want to enjoy these 24 hours, but what do you see as sort of the top 2 or 3 challenges to ensure the program's successful and you can keep it sold?
That's a great question, Steve. I think I had a series of risks in a very formal risk management system prior to the awards. And now that we've got these awards, we have to relook at that. So I haven't actually thought about that. Obviously, we're going to be in a constrained budget environment. That's going to be a challenge. NASA has a lot of great missions on our plate that we've got to somehow figure out a way to fully fund and prioritize with all of our country's needs. So that's going to be a challenge. Technically, each one of these systems have challenges, of course, going forward. I'm feeling pretty good, though, actually, at the moment. Our management structures in place are good. We've now, really been able to get in and dive into our partners' proposals, and we feel good about those, obviously, or we would not have selected them. I guess that's it. There's nothing that comes screaming to mind other than the budget, which is always a challenge for any NASA program going forward. I guess that would be the biggest one. And then next, I'm trying to think of my top 5 risks. I should have the David Letterman top 10 list ready to go. Next time I speak, I'll have that. Steve, thanks. Sorry.
Other questions from the COMSTAC membership? Seeing none, let's go to the audience. Does anyone have questions from the audience for Phil?
Frank, of course. Okay, bring it on.
If we could turn on the mic too, please.
Is that working? That's working. Just wondering, obviously you picked 2 yesterday. There were 3 competitors. There might be other companies that emerge over time. We already saw with COTS where one provider was not able to execute, and you brought on somebody else to offset that. Is there an on-ramp provision? Are you going to be considering other companies to still come on later on in the process?
Right. Great question, Frank. There is an on-ramp clause in the TCAP RFP. You can look at it. I forget the clause. It's H something that says at some point we could bring on an additional provider should our requirements dictate or other circumstances. It's a pretty broadly worded contract. So yes, we have an on-ramp clause. We really strongly hope that industry continues all of their development efforts that are out there, and it's not just the 3 that we had under ICAP. There's others that are doing other things. So we, again, we've said this many times, we really think it's in NASA's interest to have a competitive environment. So we did want to put that on-ramp clause in there to enable that. Short answer, yes. I should have just said yes, right?
Jeff.
I'll repeat it, Jeff. I can probably hear you.
Hi, Jeff Dow, Space News. 2 quick questions.
Okay.
Hopefully they can answer. One is for the post-certification mission.
Right.
Are you assuming either the rental car or taxi model for those missions?
Right. So the first question is for the post-certification missions, the services missions to ISS, are we assuming a rental car or a taxi model? Our requirements don't dictate that, Jeff. It was really up to the provider. We hope to be able to provide the flexibility for them to work within either approach. NASA's requirements are for 4 personnel up and down from the International Space Station. So again, that's very specific to the partner's approach, and we're not really talking about those. So all I can say is NASA enabled either one of those options to be realized, whatever fit the partner's business plan best.
Okay. And the second one, I think building on the question that Mike asked about the total contract value, that significant combined contract value is significantly larger than even the run-out of the commercial crew budget, the 2015 budget.
Right.
Are you assuming that, assuming that these missions go past that 5-year run-out, will the commercial crew line continue, or will that be the space operations line? Where will that money come from?
Yep, I'm going to not answer that one. Sorry, Jeff. Any kind of budget question is radioactive these days. So all I can say is we believe we can fund these contracts. We hope to get the President's budget request for 2015. We'll be updating our budget request in February of next year, just like we do every year. Having these contracts, signed will enable us to refine that. So we'll be working that going forward.
I tried, Jeff.
It's been, the week before the announcement, it was amazing how many people could ask a slightly different way of when are the awards coming. It was really quite innovative by my friends and colleagues.
We're glad they did. Can I ask one follow-up on
Sure,
that
go
point,
ahead.
Phil? And again, you may not be able to answer. Relative to the split between the two companies, were the awards that were given relatively close to what was proposed, or was there more of a decision between the two? Can you speak to that process at all?
Yeah,
relative
probably
to the
not.
distribution?
That'll be in the source selection statement that we release. All I can say is I'll just reiterate what Kathy said. We set our requirements. The companies had to meet those requirements. It's similar to just about any commercial industry. You go to multiple suppliers, you get different bids. And that's what we experienced here. And we feel like we made in the RFP, it says we were going to make one or more awards. We made two. We felt like that was in the best interest of NASA and the government and the nation, actually.
Well, Congressman Ruppersberger is here, so we'll take one last question from the audience.
Okay. Right. Right. Both. The competition exists today, and the competition is going to go forward down the road since we've selected two. We hope there's even additional competition for industry participants outside of the TCAP contract if they want to continue the development and potentially come in later. But to answer the specific question, how are the PCM missions, the post-certification missions counted? All 6 are in the contract value that I quoted. And we will make the decisions about when to exercise and which ones to exercise in the future. Each company gets 6 total, 2 guaranteed if they make it through certification, and then the others are options on the contract. They're in the contract. Thank you very much.
So, Phil, let me just say, NASA did not have to delay this announcement until the COMSTAC, but we appreciate you doing it anyway.
That was the timing. Yep.
So, hey, thank you again for everything that you've done, both prior to Commercial Crew and on the Commercial Crew program. You've certainly taken fantasy, turned it to reality, so you've earned these Star Trek mugs.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
Round of applause for Phil McAlister.
Thank you.
Next up.